I have just realized I have not been recording. So we are now recording. If you're watching back on the recording, welcome to tonight's masterclass on emotional eating. We are going to be covering all things emotional eating, improving your relationship with food, and just generally having a better outlook with food. So thank God I realized that we weren't recording then. Okay, I would have had to make you all turn back up for this webinar again. Okay, so let's jump into it. What is a healthy relationship with food? I think we hear this thrown around left, right, and center, and it's very hard to understand what is a healthy relationship with food. Now, I think a lot of people really get this skewed, and they think a healthy relationship with food equals I can eat whatever I want just because I fancy it, because I've got a good relationship with food. And that is not what having a healthy relationship with food is. That is not what mindful eating is. And that is not what honoring your body's needs is, okay? Because there are two different types of hunger. We have physiological hunger and we have psychological hunger. And oftentimes, when we are listening to our body, we are listening to those psychological cues. It's really, really important that we're able to differentiate between the two. Otherwise, you will find yourself in a little bit of a paralysis between, do I stick with my goals? Do I honor my cravings? And just not really knowing what to do or where to go. So as I've said, having a healthy relationship with food is not eating whatever you want and sitting there eating a packet of biscuits. Just by definition, a healthy relationship with food involves accepting all different kinds of foods to help feed and nourish your body whilst enjoying what you eat. So as it says, it can involve all aspects of intuitive eating, mindset-wise, that honors that hunger and fullness cues, okay? And oftentimes when we are emotionally eating, which is an umbrella term, which I'll get into in a minute, we don't have a very good hunger and fullness cues. I don't know if any of you guys have been there, where you have been in a moment of overeating. Maybe it's on a pizza, it's on chocolate, it's on crisps, and you really, really struggle to see when you're actually full. And this is really, really common, and it's purely because we are in that emotional state. We find it very difficult to make rational decisions. Has anybody here, this is not like a yes or you should have done it, but has anyone here read the book The Chimp Paradox or heard of it? Just drop it in the chat if you have. Or maybe you've listened to a podcast on the Chimp Paradox. Gonna assume that's a no. The Chimp Paradox is an absolutely wonderful book at really recognizing your inner kind of chimp. And the inner chimp is that emotional system, that subconscious system that controls 95% of our day. So your emotional system, your subconscious mind, is going to be in control of 95% of your actions. I know I've spoken about this before, but me talking right now, this is subconscious, okay? I'm doing this because I already know what to say. I've obviously prepared for this presentation. I know what I'm going to say. So I already know what is coming up next. Maybe when I go to get a drink, this is once again a subconscious decision. I know how to open the lid. I know how to drink. So it is very much subconscious. Now, that is the really important thing that we have to recognize, is that that is your kind of chimp. And the chimp is going to sometimes hijack your rational brain. And this is where we have to almost hijack ourselves when it comes to when you're overeating, or maybe when you are struggling to make rational decisions with food. We have to go, shit, okay, this is not in alignment with me. So when we are looking at your relationship with food whilst also pursuing body composition goals, this is where it's really, really important to know what is a healthy relationship with food. What does that actually look like? Now, as your coaches or within the Evolve Academy, we do absolutely everything to support creating a healthy relationship with food, such as things like if it fits your macros instead of a meal plan. Obviously, meal plans are very restrictive. They see things as you have to have this or you have failed. And even things like demonizing foods, demonizing foods, seeing things in very black and white thinking is not helpful at all, okay? Because we know when we say, I'm not allowed this Easter egg, for example, this Easter egg will make me gain fat. I was just speaking to a client today who was previously on Herbalife, and she was not allowed any of her Easter egg over the Easter holidays. And what that has then led her to do was take that very much all or nothing thinking, where she was like, well, if you say I can't have any, I'm actually just going to completely stop and eat a whole Easter egg. Okay, so do you see what I mean? It's very, very important that we don't demonize these foods, because it creates a very unhealthy relationship with it. The next thing is that moderation, so the 80-20 rule, and really focusing on your mindset around the food as well. And if you are in photo shoot prep right now, a lot of our girls are, you will know that I say this a lot about the victim mode. When we place ourselves as a victim within the situation and we say, I'm not allowed XYZ, or I'm super disciplined and so I can't have XYZ, it creates this almost like this dissonance where we really, really want something that we know that we shouldn't have, shouldn't, quote unquote, obviously. And then it also leads us to having this halo effect around the food. How many times, obviously, before you joined our coaching, did you say, oh, I'm not allowed chocolate? And it made you want chocolate even more. How many times did you see there was a piece of cake and you really wanted the piece of cake, but you couldn't have it because you were working on your fitness goals? It often makes you want it even more when we play the victim. Now, there are different circumstances here. Maybe you are able to go, oh, I really, really want this right now, but I know that that's not going to serve me. That is not going to help me feel my best. So this is where it's very important to be able to bring in that rational thinking, move out of the emotional subconscious mindset and really move into the presence. Now, a lot of people think that they have to either focus on the relationship with food or be super disciplined. And it's almost like which one is right? Which one is right for me? And again, if you have struggled with your relationship with food in the past, or you have emotionally eaten in the past, you will find that this is very much the case for you, where you convince yourself, I just need to be super disciplined. I just need a really, really good week of eating, and then I'll be fine again. Or I just need to get back on track, and then I won't have any cravings again. I just need to cut the sugar out, and then the cravings for chocolate will go. But what this doesn't actually do is fix anything. All it does is, control yourself even more, which creates, again, the halo effect that makes you want it even more. Now, on the flip side, a lot of people think, oh, I can't pursue my goals because I want to improve my relationship with food. And of course, in cases of it being an actual eating disorder, where we would obviously refer you out to somebody who is a doctor or a physician that specializes in this area, that is the case where you can't do both. But for the lot of the time, for a lot of people, working on your relationship with food and having the ability to be able to control what you eat, control your hunger, control your portion sizes will actually positively benefit your body composition goals. So we can do the same at one time. Has anyone in here ever found that to be true for them? Like, have you been able to improve your relationship with food whilst also transforming your body, or transforming your body, which has then had a knock-on effect on your relationship with food? Let me know in the chat. I want to make this super nice and interactive. So if I keep asking you questions, keep answering. Or has anybody had any of these thoughts that I've spoken about? Maybe we're demonizing food, with having a halo effect of the food and going, oh my God, like that is exactly what it felt like. Hannah says yes, 100%. And for you, Hannah, it wasn't even a case of like, we didn't cut things out and go super strict. We actually gave you more permission to eat more, which helped improve your relationship with food, which helps lose body fat faster. So it's a really, really positive cycle. Meg's like, yes. Erin said, I'm guilty of this. As you know, I always say I've been naughty and had because I was trying to do this prep really clean. And you know what? When we try and do things super, super clean, what happens is we cut out all of our favorite foods. And when we cut out all of our favorite foods, it makes us feel like we've done something wrong when we haven't. Yeah, absolutely. Not letting yourself down at all. And, there's so many different ways that you can lose weight. You can lose weight by severe restriction. You can lose weight by including the nice foods. You can lose weight by calorie cycling. So maybe you do 2 weeks really strict and then 2 weeks not as strict. It doesn't really matter how you do it. What matters is that you get the end result, right? So for example, with you, Erin, like we've spoken about this, whether you were to do this super clean with not a single macro mistracked, or you were to do it with including your McDonald's here and there, you will still get to the same end result, just one is going to be way more enjoyable. Natalie says, I definitely demonize food. We are going to work on actually how to stop demonizing foods, because there are no such thing as a good or a bad food. There are absolutely different macronutrient goals. And yes, of course, like obviously we all know eating a nutrient dense meal is going to provide you with more nutritional micronutrition value. However, when we look at actually satiation cues and the psychology behind how full you feel, for example, or how satisfied you feel after a meal, sometimes it's actually better not to have the super healthy option. We'll delve into that. I love this topic. I think we all know that. Okay, so I just really want to quickly touch on this because I want to make it very, very clear that overeating and binge eating are two very different things. I know a lot of the time we refer to binge eating when maybe you say, oh, I had a binge over the weekend, or I binged on chocolate last night, but there is a very big difference between overeating and binge eating. So I like to make it very clear the difference is so that we don't actually end up misusing terms, because when we label ourselves, for example, a binge eater, it makes it a lot harder to move out of that because you create that part of your personality. Whereas when we can recognize that you are not a binge eater because you can't inherently be an action. Do you get what I mean? Like your personality, your identity can't be an action. It's like when somebody says, I'm messy. You can't be messy as an identity because that is an action that you are choosing to take. So that's why I say overeating as opposed to binge eating, okay? Or a binge eater. So overeating is often when we eat more than we intend. We reach for junk food, maybe due to hunger, it's convenience, maybe it's habitual eating, and it's often fixed with a strategy. So pre-planning and hunger management and mindfulness. And oftentimes with overeating as well, you eat a lot more than you want. You kind of feel a little bit more unconscious. You don't really realize that you're doing it as such. Maybe you've intended to have one or two biscuits and you've ended up eating the packet. That is overeating. Binge eating is very different. This is eating to numb pain or sadness or anxiety, and unable to stop, and sometimes even inflicting harm on others if they try to take the food away, unable to snap out of it. And oftentimes with binge eating, it is very much in hiding. You won't admit to anybody what you're doing. So if you do find that this webinar is obviously more so tailored to overeating and emotional eating, if you do think, oh shit, like this could be binge eating, please let us know personally one-to-one, because that is something that requires a lot more help. Okay, so just wanted to clear that up before we jumped in. Okay, so mindset, that we all know this is like my favorite topic in the world. And your brain is never ever going to do anything to harm you. Okay, your brain is never doing anything to self-sabotage. So when you overeat and you're trying to be really, really good with your diet, and you're like, why am I doing this? Like, I'm so annoyed at my brain, it's so shit, blah, 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 blah. Or maybe you're having a really bad day and you're just like, why can't I just sort my shit out? Maybe you're feeling quite anxious and you're just getting angry at yourself. What we have to understand is your brain is never going to try and intentionally do anything to harm you. It is literally there to keep you safe and to keep you alive. Now, your brain is going to perceive there to be positives from doing X thing. So, such as if you are emotionally eating, or if you are digging into the chocolate buttons, it's looking for a release of something or an avoidance of something else. So maybe you find yourself, and we'll go into examples later on. And if you guys feel comfortable, I would absolutely love if we could delve into this, because I really do think it helps you learn better when you can understand the practical applications to yourself. But say, for example, you dig in. I know for me, when I was at the start of my fitness journey and really, really struggled with overeating and emotional eating, for me, I would come home every single day, be straight into the kitchen cupboards, and I would sit on the floor and just eat crisps and just eat biscuits. And what the positives that my brain perceived to be from that point onwards was the dopamine, because I was tired from coming home after a long day. I was tired, so it gave me a nice hit, a bit of dopamine, a bit of endorphins. It also helped me avoid some other feelings. So it helped me avoid anxiety. It also helped me avoid hunger, which we'll delve into in a little bit. But I was very, very hungry, which is why I was having so many bouts of overeating. It wasn't that I was broken. It wasn't that my brain was working against me or didn't want me to lose the weight. It was that genuinely the strategy was not there. I was hungry, I was tired, and so I needed that hit of dopamine. So it's not doing it on purpose to go, haha, like you can't look good in a bikini. It is doing it to protect you and keep you safe from some way or another. So when we understand this, we can actually ask ourselves, what part of me needs to be protected right now? Or what part of me am I trying to avoid? And I find this is a really, really great technique for most of us to bring some awareness into it. Now, obviously, as we were saying earlier, when we have bouts of overeating, we often do it quite unconsciously. This is why people are often scrolling on TikTok when they're doing it, or they're watching TV, or they're maybe working. You're working and you're just snacking along the way, and you don't realize that you've actually eaten a whole family bag of sensations. Who's been there? I know I absolutely have. And it is true, genuinely just because we don't have a good amount of awareness of what we're doing. We don't have a good mind, gut, body connection in that moment because we're doing so many different things at the same time. So when we ask our brains, what part of me is trying to be protected right now? Actually take a minute to stop and go, ooh, okay, I know I don't need this huge pack of crisps right now. What part of me is trying to be protected? Or maybe you get really, really intense cravings for chocolate or cake and you just want to go ham, or you are having a bad day and you want to order a takeaway. What part of me is trying to be protected right now? Just close your eyes. And I know it sounds really, really weird, but you want to close your eyes and go, okay, what part of me is trying to be protected right now, or am I trying to avoid? Now, oftentimes we'll find, shit, like I've actually got quite a lot of anxiety because I've got a big deadline tomorrow and I'm really worried about it. But you have to check in with yourself. I think a lot of people think that dealing with or improving your relationship with food is a simple fix of have a little bit more chocolate, eat what you want, and your relationship with food will be healed. It takes a lot of mindset work to improve your relationship with food, and we can always get better at it. Maybe you didn't even realize that the things that you were doing were leading you to have a negative relationship with food. But this is where we are here to bring the awareness to that. Now, we also have to understand that we take the path of least resistance. So if you have been offered a takeaway and it's been a really, really long day, you get home at 8 p.m. and you've been offered a takeaway and someone says like, look, I'll pay for you. I'll even go and collect it. You put on your PJs and I'll sort it all out. Or you have to go home, go to the food shop, cook, and have to think about what you're going to choose after a long day. Which one are we most likely to do? We're gonna take the takeaway because when your brain is going through, oh gosh, well, that one's going to take more time. It's going to take me going to the shop and I'm already tired and I don't really want to socialize with anyone. And what will I even cook? And then it's going to take me time to cook. And then I'm going to have to do the dishes. And then by the time I've done all that, it's going to be 10 p.m. And your brain is going through all of these processes constantly. It is always going through these. And as I was saying at the start of this webinar, this is where your subconscious comes into play because it knows all of these things based on past experiences of cooking, of coming home late, of, being tired before. It knows all of these past experiences. And it knows that the easiest option in this situation is to take the takeaway. Now, sometimes that might be great, but if you're working on a fat loss goal and a takeaway is going to be 1,500 calories, that might be almost your daily calorie intake. And of course, it's fine to do that every now and then. But if this is a weekly, twice weekly occurrence, you are going to find that your progress is obviously going to plateau. So when we understand that about mindset, we then know we need to combine the mindset with the strategy. You are so much more susceptible to overeating when we don't plan ahead, such as when we don't plan our dinner and it gets to 8:30, we are then going to probably be more likely to get the takeaway because it's like, well, shit, like I just don't know what I'm going to eat. It's going to take me so much time. And as we've spoken about earlier, that can lead to then a lot of feelings of guilt, anger, resentment towards ourselves, feeling like we've disappointed ourselves. And that only contributes to this self-depreciating loop, this really negative loop of self-talk. And this, by the way, is whittling down at your confidence. Every single time you set a goal and you don't achieve it, or you don't follow through, or you choose an alternate option, or you don't quite hit it to the expectations, the very high expectations, may I add, that you had of that situation, your self-worth is being knocked down piece by piece, like a thread. It's being pulled out thread by thread. And you will know this because then when somebody asks you, what is your chances of sticking to a diet? You're like, absolutely impossible, because you have created the evidence that you can't stick to a diet and your self-worth is on the ground. Before we move on, I know I've spoken a lot, like probably quite in depth at you guys. Do we have any questions so far? That was a lot to take in. Anything you want me to clarify? There's no such thing as a silly question. Or does that all make sense? Put a yes if it makes sense, so I know to move on. Hannah says yes. The good start. We've got 2 yeses. Two yeses. Any more takers? Let me know it makes sense, guys. Or if you do have questions, just pop them in the chat. Just give it a minute. Okay, Natalie says yes as well. Erin says it makes sense. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is where we also have to combine strategy, because if we just focused on the mindset alone, what would happen is we'd end up just like, I love mindset. We all know this. I love mindset. But if we just focus on the mindset, which is often the issue with a lot of therapists, is that we are very, like, we understand the mindset. We know how to help ourselves, but we don't know how to prevent it. So maybe then you have the skills to manage overeating, to stop yourself in your tracks, to make a better decision, to be kinder to yourself, to not have that really negative self-talk and not have the guilt. But how can we actually prevent it in the first place? Because surely, like, that would be even better. And this is where we have to have a strategy. Now, one of my favorite things for managing hunger, and you guys will all know that I talked about this a million and one times, is really making sure that you have frequent meals. When we allow our hunger to get very high, your hunger hormone, which is called ghrelin, comes all the way up here. So say, for example, you skip breakfast, and is there a pen on this? Yeah. Say, for example, you skip breakfast. We just don't have this meal here. What happens then is by the time it gets to lunch, your ghrelin is up here. Now, what that then does is make your leptin hormone, which is the hormone that tells us that we're full, is down here. So ghrelin goes up, hunger goes up, leptin, satiation hormone, goes down. So then when we do eat at 1 p.m., even if you have 5, 6, 700 calories, you still will not feel full. You will still feel like you need more, because your satiation hormones are like, we're still kind of hungry. So what does this mean for you? It means that we need to make sure we are eating frequently. This is why I'm a big advocate for eating 3, 4, 5 times a day, however many you need. Every person is so different. I know, for example, Coach Annie, I know she has like 2 breakfasts every single day because she's a hungry gal. I know for me, I don't like to eat straight first thing in the morning. So I'll always push my breakfast back to like 9, 10 a.m. Everybody is so dependent, but this is where your strategy is absolutely key. So let's take, for example, a calorie goal of 2000, just because it's easy. What you could do is split that up into 4. So just reading the comments here, Erin said, this happens to me, even if I've been busy and don't feel hungry. Then when I finally eat, I get more hungry. And exactly that is because your leptin is like, oh, we don't feel full. We don't feel full right now. And this is why it's so important to not go hours and hours without eating. This is the flaw also in things like intermittent fasting. Don't know if anyone's ever tried this. It's basically where you fast for a period to have a smaller eating window. But what tends to happen, and there's a lot of research around this, because we've not eaten throughout the day, when you do actually get to that eating window, maybe it's at 12 p.m. until 8 p.m., for example, you're starving and you just don't feel full. You don't feel satisfied. So in a lot of the studies, people end up eating the same amount of calories anyway. So this is where splitting your calorie goal makes it so much easier. Now, maybe your breakfast is around 500 calories. We've got some protein in there, because we all know protein is absolutely key for satisfaction, for satiation, to make you feel fuller, for muscle growth. I don't need to repeat it because you guys already know in here, but making sure that we've got a good dose of protein. Then maybe for your lunch, you have another 500 calories, and maybe this is a little bit higher in protein. Maybe we have a mid-afternoon snack at 4 p.m. I know I love a 4 p.m. snack, because the 1 p.m. till 7 p.m. gap is just too violent for me. I've got to eat in that period. And maybe here you don't have to have anything crazy. It doesn't have to be chicken and rice. It could literally just be a protein bar, or a bowl of yogurt, or a chocolate bar and a protein shake. You know, you have so much flexibility, but making sure we eat something so that when you get home and you have dinner, you are not ravenous. I speak to so many women who say, whilst they're making their dinner, because they're so hungry from not having eaten since lunch, they end up eating cheese and biscuits and crisps, and just picking at grapes and picking at little bits whilst they're actually cooking their dinner. Like they're prepping another meal, but they're already hungry, so they're already eating. And you can easily put away 200 calories worth of cheese and crackers, you know, before dinner, or 200 calories worth of a glass of wine and some crisps, because you just think they're little nibbles, or some olives. Like, these things add up. So having a proper strategy with your food, not allowing yourself to get hungry, is so important. Meg said, I low-key snack the most when I'm cooking. And you know what? This is where we accidentally end up building calories as well. Because we're like, oh, it's just one crisp, it's just two crisps, just three. And then we end up having a few strawberries, we have a few grapes, and then before we know it, we've had 200 calories before dinner. That is sometimes unaccounted for, but it definitely doesn't fill the gap. It does not fill that gap in your stomach. So I'm a big advocate for splitting your calories. Now, let's say, for example, you're going for a meal out. Obviously, this is something that we've covered on previous webinars, and I can cover again if anybody's interested. But say, for example, you've got a meal out and you know you want to have like a big fat beef burger, right, with some chips. And you know that's probably going to be about like 2,000 calories, for example, not 2,000, like 1,200 calories, for example. And you're like, well, if I've only got 2,000 calories for the day, that means I've only got 800 calories for breakfast and lunch. Now, we don't have to be that restrictive. We can have, a little bit less calories the day before, do a little bit of calorie banking. But even still, maybe your breakfast in that case is a double scoop protein shake, and it's 40 grams of protein for 150 calories. Maybe you just, if you're not hungry for breakfast, obviously if you are hungry, eat. But we always have a strategy. And when we have a strategy, when we have that pre-planning, when we know what we're doing with our food, it makes it a lot easier to not make emotional decisions and overeat. Okay. And even as a coach, I know if I don't eat throughout the day, if I don't plan my meals, the first thing, because I've got a sweet tooth, so the first thing my brain goes is, I could eat a cookie right now, or I could eat a brownie right now. And it's such a running joke between me and my partner, because every time I say that, we know I'm either coming on my period or I've not eaten enough throughout the day. I've not eaten enough protein. So it's really, really important that we have proper meals throughout the day. Just reading the comments here. Yes, Erin plans her meals. Yeah, I love that. Does definitely help as well. And then Karen, skip breakfast and get so snacky. Yes, stop skipping breakfast, because your hunger hormones are building up. Your satiation hormones are like, they're not here. They're not having a good day. And even if, even if you don't want to meal prep, which is completely fine, I don't always meal prep. Having something, Karen, just like a protein shake for breakfast will really, really help with not getting a snacky whilst you're making dinner. But also, I definitely think this snack at 4 p.m. will make a big difference for you, so that you're not snacking whilst you're making dinner as well. Especially if, I don't know if anyone else has like tried making elaborate recipes recently, like on the HelloFresh hype or the TikTok recipes, but they you think it's going to take 10 minutes and it takes half an hour, and before you know it, you are absolutely ravenous. So really making sure we've got those snacks spread out throughout the day and that they have protein in them as well. Okay, so if we can have hunger mitigation, we can have a clear plan of action, we can have less decision making. If we can make less decisions throughout the day, that's always a great shout. And we can have less impulsivity with food. We can have less bouts of overeating, which is going to have less guilt, less depreciating self-worth, less demonizing of foods, because it is planned in. The difference between eating 2,000 calories a day, where you've had 3 really, really good nutrient-dense meals, you've hit your protein target, you've had your 5 fruits and veggies a day, and maybe you've finished the day off with a bar of chocolate and a glass of wine. The difference between that and having 700 calories worth of chocolate, a tuna sandwich, and a cereal bar for breakfast, the difference in the how you will feel inside, but also the guilt associated with it, will be absolutely monumental. And a lot of the time, when people are struggling with their relationship with food, or they are struggling with guilt or low self-worth, if you look at your diet, does it show how you want to become? And we're covering that in week 3 of the mindset and embodiment and the identity, because this is a huge part of improving your relationship with food, is really embodying the habits, the traits, the attributes, the nutrition, the structure that you want to have in your life. So I'm really, really excited for that one. But it really helps to have less impulsivity. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is that picking at foods. And I think this is very, very prevalent to what we were just speaking about with the dinner situation and with the eating the cheese and eating the little nibbles. And I feel like you've all exposed yourself now about saying that you do this. So how can we prevent the picking at foods? Now, first and foremost, obviously we've spoken about pre-plan your meals, avoid getting too hungry, stop going 7 hours without eating. It is not a good strategy, okay? I have another client who's not on the call today who over the Easter weekend, didn't eat proper meals, skipped breakfast because she was running late, ended up, having crap for lunch because it was all that was available at the time, then ended up having crap for dinner because she felt crap about herself. And you see how it's such a vicious cycle. So avoiding getting too hungry and pre-planning your meals. Now, another thing that we can use is in the moment checking in with your hunger. This is the most incredible thing, and I absolutely love doing this. It was a game changer for me when I was working on my relationship with food, and I still use it to this day when I'm thinking, do I need this? Is this in line with my goals? Is this am I actually hungry right now? Is this an actual craving, or is it just that psychological hunger that I was talking about? So this hunger scale is where you ask yourself, you check in. Again, close your eyes. You know what I'm all about. We're really, really thinking about bringing the consciousness, bringing the awareness, moving us out of that subconscious mindset zone where you are in, by the way, for 95% of the day. So don't feel bad when you're picking at chocolate because it's literally so programmed in you. We have to program it out. So bringing yourself into this hunger scale and go, okay, 0 to 10, 0 being not hungry at all, 10 being I am ravenous. Whereabouts am I right now? And really asking yourself that. Have a drink of water. Sometimes it can just be dehydration as well, but have a sip of water and go, whereabouts am I at on that hunger scale? If we are between 0 and 3, we're really, no, sorry. If we are between 7 and 10 and we're really, really hungry, that is a clear indication that we have left it too long without eating, or the meal that you had before this thing was not substantial enough. Maybe you will do the hunger rule and the hunger check-in, and you're like, shit, you know what? Like, I'm not very hungry. I'm 3. I'm a 2, I'm a 3, but I've just eaten this big meal. I don't know about anybody else, but I really, really used to struggle with this, was after a meal, I would still feel hungry. I would still want more food, whether it be chocolate, whether it be sweets, whether it be some bread. And I would go, how is it that I'm still hungry if I've just had a big meal? And the reality was, I wasn't hungry. It was psychological hunger. It was craving. It was thinking, I could do some more right now, but I didn't need any more. So really checking in with yourself and going, okay, I'm actually not hungry right now. Maybe my food just hasn't digested yet. It takes 20 to 30 minutes for your food to actually digest. Now, we're going to talk about food hygiene later on, but it is so important that you eat nice and slowly. You give your food time to digest and do that to hunger check in. So do that hunger scale. Let me know if you've ever done this before, if you've ever practiced this before, or if you think it's going to be a tool that's going to be helpful for you. Now, another thing that's brilliant is using the 10-minute rule. This is where if you're really, really wanting something, and I use this a lot in my dieting phase, where obviously hunger is going to be higher. You're in a photo shoot prep, you're probably going to feel hungry, okay? It is part and part of the process. When we are dieting, we might have a little bit of hunger here and there. Obviously, if you're ravenous all the time, that's not a good sign. But if it's just a little touch of hunger in between meals, that is okay. But doing the 10-minute rule. So this is where, say, for example, you're really hungry and you were going to go and eat something, maybe like it's like a little bit of chocolate, you were going to pick at something, you were going to pick at some crisps. Set a timer on your phone for 10 minutes and go, can I wait 10 minutes? Wait 10 minutes. If you still really, really want it, you're still quite hungry, maybe then we have it. But most of the time that 10 minutes is going to go by and you're going to actually completely forget about that food. Okay. So always giving yourself that. And actually, ideally, don't set an alarm. Just say, can I wait 10 minutes? Go back up and do something else. If that 10 minutes pass and you're not thinking about it, then brilliant. We don't need to have it. Don't set the alarm. I'm just thinking, because if you do set the alarm, that is a cue for you to go and eat. And then with the impulsivity as well is that food pairing. So if we do decide, actually, hunger is quite high. So we're like a 7, 8, 9, 10. We're pretty hungry. We've done the 10-minute rule. We actually do need food, using food pairing. So rather than just having a cookie, which is never just one cookie, because obviously if you're very hungry, one cookie ain't going to satisfy it. We're going to use then food pairing, which is then we're going to go, okay, I need to add something more substantial to this. I'm going to have this cookie, but I'm also going to have a bowl of some yogurt to get some protein in. And I'm also going to have some grapes. Or I'm going to have a protein shake with this, and I'm going to have some fruit. Or maybe you go, you know what, this cookie is not going to be enough. I am a 10 out of 10 hungry. I'm going to have some chicken and rice or some meal prep or chicken curry, whatever you've got meal prepped. And I'm going to have this cookie after it. But using your logical decisions with that food pairing to help you. Now, we can also do physical barriers, like keeping the chocolate on the top shelf. I never ever think it's a good idea to keep the food out of the house to avoid binging on it, or to because you don't have any self-control. I think we need to work on the self-control first, because that's obviously a problem. And if you were to get to a situation where you're face to face with that food, you need to know that you are in control and you can cope with it. But so just a small barrier, like keeping it on the top of the shelf where it's not at eye level, can make a small difference to not feeling quite as impulsive with it. And then also with that mindset barrier, reminding yourself of the rule of delayed gratification, knowing that the food ain't going away. The chocolate what you've got in the cupboard right now, it's not going anywhere. Maybe you have a Easter egg, it's not going anywhere. You can have a small bit of it every day if you want to, but we don't need to eat it all in one go. You are more than allowed to take it slowly and have a little bit. Erin said going out. So you had your meals before you left, then a big bowl of yogurt and whey, and then a white cream egg. Amazing. So we had the treat. We paired it with something a little bit more nutritionally dense that's going to keep you fuller. So the yogurt and the whey. And we had the nice food. That is literally the most perfect example of food pairing. And I can almost guarantee, had you not had that bowl of yogurt, you would have had the first cream egg and been like, oh shit, like I'm going to have another one now. That's not quite hit the spot. I'm going to need another one. I'm going to need another one. And it will continue to almost like keep thinking at you. Okay. And I don't know if anybody's ever made this. And I know this has been a case for myself and also for past clients, but have you ever made brownies or a cake or something? And you say, I'm not going to have a piece right now because I am on a diet or whatever, or I just can't have a piece because I'm being good. I'm going to have a piece later. And then what you do is you stand over the brownies and you cut them up and you start picking and you start picking and you start picking. And before you know it, you've had 3 brownies, but you've not enjoyed any of them because you've not given yourself the actual chance to enjoy it by sitting down. Don't know if that's relatable for anyone, but I know that that is something that I definitely did have in the past. And this is where it's so important to actually sit down and enjoy your foods. So the next thing is food satisfaction. Okay. This is what I was talking about earlier. I feel like I take a shot every time I say that, but I was talking about food satisfaction earlier, which is where sometimes food satisfaction is not going to be having the super healthy option. It's not going to be having the lowest calorie option. Sometimes food satisfaction is having what you truly desire. So I know this is a little bit hard to understand, because then again, where is that line between being disciplined and honoring my cravings? But am I just taking the piss when I say I'm honoring my cravings? Satisfaction is including the foods that you love, to avoid creating that halo effect, to avoid having that black or white thinking, to avoid demonizing foods. When we give ourselves foods and we say that it is off limits, when we say it's, I don't know, something that we can't have, what will happen is you want it even more. And that is going to decrease your food satisfaction. Say, for example, you really, really love cooking food. You love, I don't know, all sorts, right? And you just make yourself have boring meal prep. That's going to lead to a poor level of food satisfaction. Now, this can happen in so many different cases. It's not always just having chocolate in your diet. It might be when you go out for a meal and you get a salad and everybody else is having pizza, right? And you get a salad. How does that make you feel when you go home? You might actually feel, I'm not satisfied here. I'm not satisfied. I'm not satiated. So not only do you not feel full, but you're also not satisfied because everybody else had a pizza and you didn't. And this leads to this feeling of that you've missed out. Once again, puts us in a place where we unintentionally play the victim and feel like, oh, everybody else got to enjoy, but I didn't because I'm on this stupid diet. And then what we end up doing is either quitting the diet, or we end up going a little bit overboard, or we feel like we should treat ourselves with having more food. So food satisfaction is really, really important. And for me, for example, I'm using a lot of examples here because I truly think it's a lot easier to wrap your head around with examples. But when I was doing my last photo shoot diet, I, for a good chunk of it, followed a kind of meal plan structure. Wasn't a strict meal plan, but a kind of a meal plan structure where I'd eat very, very similar meals. And what happened is I just became so bored of the same meals, and I just really was not enjoying my food. I felt so hungry after every single meal. And it wasn't that I was eating any less calories than usual. It was that I didn't have any food satisfaction. Now, when I changed to If It Fits Your Macros on the exact same amount of calories, my food satisfaction increased because I had more autonomy over what I ate, and I was able to eat meals that I actually enjoyed. I was able to eat meals that were, I changed them up a little bit. I had more variety in my diet, which we know variety, by the way, is brilliant for your gut health to have multiple different sources of food. But it massively helped with that food satisfaction. Let me know, guys, does this all make sense so far? Because I know I'm covering so many different topics with relation to relationship with food, but I wanted to make this as in-depth and as informative as I possibly freaking could. All makes sense. Okay, wonderful. Food satisfaction is honestly one of the most underrated things. It's so underestimated within the fitness space and within the nutrition space. When we have more satisfaction with our food, we are less likely to overeat. When you actually enjoy what you eat, you're less likely to overeat. Very obviously, maybe for example with Erin, when you had the yogurt and the fruit and the protein and the cream egg, right? You could have swapped that if you really, really wanted to for chicken and rice and broccoli if you were being really hardcore. Like if you wanted to do this like super clean, that could have been chicken, rice, and broccoli. But would you have felt satisfied and would you have felt satiated? Would you have felt like, oh gosh, like that felt really, really good, especially around Easter? Probably not. So we have to listen to those satisfaction cues as well. Now, this is another topic I love, which is the rules of diminishing returns. So the rules of diminishing returns is where we get to a point where there's no more positive benefits. And this was key for me when improving the relationship with my food, but also for so many different realms of life. So this is the increasing returns. And I want you to think about your favorite food right now or your favorite drink. I really love the analogy here with something like pizza, or maybe we're talking something like a huge cake. Like we're not talking small, we're talking absolutely massive. So what happens is the more we eat, it gets good. Like the thought of it, this is the thought of it. The thought of it is amazing. The thought of this like burger or the thought of this pizza is incredible. Now the first few bites, insane, absolutely stunning, hit right the spot. Now we get to this point of maximum yield. And this is going to be different for everybody depending on your appetite, depending on where your hunger levels were beforehand. But you'll get to a point where we have this maximum yield. Now, in most food studies that they have done, this is actually after a few bites where it doesn't get any better after this. Now, if you have siblings, I've got a younger brother, and whenever we would eat as kids, obviously, if for example, we were sharing something, we're sharing chocolate, we're sharing, the Christmas chocolates or whatever, it would always be a case of we would fight for who could have the most. Now, what I would do is continue eating more and more and more past the point of maximum yield because I don't want him to have any. But the truth be told is that after a few bites, I was done. I'd hit my peak satisfaction. So it's really, really important that you remember this rule of diminishing returns. And I know I post a lot on Instagram about the ability to actually leave food on your plate or to eat half and then to take the rest home, to feel okay to leave some. This is exactly the rule of diminishing returns, is being able to see, actually, I've had half, checked in with my hunger now. I'm about a 0, a 1. I'm not hungry anymore. I'm really feeling good. I can leave the rest or I can take the rest home with me. I don't need to eat any more than this because I'm now at the point of diminishing returns where it's not going to get any better if I eat any more. I'm satisfied. I'm full. I'm satiated. I've had all I wanted to. I've enjoyed the nice food. I've hit that point of no return. I'm good. Okay. So having a good relationship with food is also being able to see this and being able to stop when you're satisfied. As I said at the start, it is not just being able to shut your face for cookies because of healthy relationship with food. It's also being able to stop yourself when you are satiated. It's being able to stop yourself when you know that having more of this food is no longer serving you. Think of it as a case of alcohol. How many of us or how many of you guys, I don't know, I don't really drink anymore, but back in the day where you would used to drink and drink and drink, and it would get past the point of drinking to get tipsy or drinking for fun. And it would get to a point where you're actually headed in the wrong direction. You're going to end up blacking out. I know so many people back in the uni days where people would just black out all the time just by getting absolutely disgustingly drunk. That is past this point of maximum yield. It's not fun anymore. It's actually very stressful for everybody around you. And it is also very, very dangerous for your body. Think of the similar kind of thing when it comes to food. Obviously not quite as in an extreme case, but it's a good analogy. Now, again, this is exactly what we're talking about in terms of the food availability and feeling like the food, you have to eat it all right now because the food is going to run out. Let me tell you, the food is never going to run out. When we perceive there to be a lack of food, it is actually very, very deeply ingrained within us from our ancestors, where especially foods like higher fats and higher sugars, there has been a big debate in the fitness and the nutrition science world over the past few years is sugar addictive? But what they actually found is sugar is not inherently addictive. It is that when we have high fats and high sugar that are very highly palatable foods, when we have those, we still have a little bit of fight or flight in us that goes, this might be your last one, because they used to be very, very scarce back in the day. So what we do is when we are feeling like, oh my God, I have to buy loads of these because they're going to run out, remember that we are living in the 21st century. We are very, very lucky to be in the UK, living in a good place. Like the food isn't going to run out, okay? And you can always go to the shop and get another one. And this is the biggest thing, especially if you buy a lot of like multi-packs, you buy a lot of like share bars, just get a smaller bar, you know, you can go and buy another one. Yes, it's an extra 20p or something like that to get a bigger one, like over time. But if we can control the amount you eat, then it's so worth it. Now, the next thing is honoring your cravings versus discipline. And this is the last slide, so we'll go into Q&A after this. But honoring your cravings versus having discipline. This is my favorite topic because it is almost like we sometimes wear discipline as a bit of a badge of honor. We make it mean a lot about ourselves. We go, I am so disciplined. I stuck to this really restricted meal plan to the T and never skipped a beat. I haven't had chocolate in 3 years. Like, I am the best. And especially if you follow a lot of fitness people or you're very in that realm, you will find that this is, you know, it's very much celebrated, which is amazing. Like, how freaking incredible is it that we get to change our bodies and that we can be really disciplined? We can show ourselves what we're capable of. And then there's also the flip side of the honor your cravings, eat whatever the fuck you want crowd. And that we need to find like a nice little middle point. I'm very much like splat and bang in the middle where I eat what I want within reason, but I also know how to exhibit discipline. So this is going to depend on multiple different factors. The first one is going to be your personal values. Not everybody is going to value getting shredded. Not everybody is going to value, on the flip side, eating chocolate. My boyfriend, for example, dare I say, knowing how much of a sweet tooth you guys know that I have, he doesn't have a sweet tooth. Chocolate doesn't bother him. Cakes don't bother him. So it's not a personal value of his. So his cravings for this thing will be very, very different. Your values are so important when we're looking at your goals in general and looking at when we know what to make a choice of. Now, this also goes interlinked with your goals. If your goal is to get lean and do a photo shoot prep, you're probably going to have to exhibit more discipline and not honor your cravings quite as frequently. If your goal is to build muscle and you're in a calorie surplus, or your goal is to just generally feel better and look better, maybe you're going to have a little bit more flexibility to honor your cravings. So it's very dependent person to person on what's important to you, so your values, what your goals are, and again, intertwining both values and goals, how fast you want to get there. You want to get there super quick, you're obviously going to have 80% discipline, or 90% discipline, 10% balance, you know? So that is the most important thing to understand first and foremost, is there's no rule book as to what is the right balance here. It's really what is most important to you and what are your goals. Now, the next thing that we can do is ask yourself, how can I add to this and elevate the meal? So again, if we've checked in with the hunger and the hunger is high and you're really, really craving this thing, maybe you've gone out for the weekend and there's like, you know, let's use an example of, I went to Easter markets this weekend and there was loads of really delicious brownies and cakes and cookies and really, really yummy looking stuff. Now, what I did when I came home is, yes, I really want this thing, but I also know my hunger level's pretty high. We're about 7 and an 8. The last time I ate was 5 hours ago. I know that if I eat this thing, it is not going to make me feel better. So how can I add to this? So I actually had a proper meal first, and then I only wanted half the brownie after because I'd already had a proper meal. So it's really important that you stop and actually check in with yourself. Check in with yourself before you just dive head first into the food. This is what emotional or even like emotional regulation, mindful eating, having a good relationship with food is about, is being able to stop yourself and being able to make the right questions, ask yourself those questions and make decisions accordingly. Now, the next thing you can ask yourself is, if I restrict this thing, will I feel proud or will I crave it more? Now, maybe it's an example of, I know Hannah popped in the group chat the other day, so I'm just going to use this if you don't mind. I know you mentioned that your family were getting a takeaway and you are also working towards a photo shoot. Your values right now are very much in line with showing up as your best self, committing and pushing yourself for this photo shoot so that you look and feel your best and lead from the front for your potential clients, right? So in this scenario, will you feel proud or will you crave it more, or will you feel, disappointed if you have this thing? You made the executive decision to work in line with your values and goals and have maybe a fake away or cook yourself some dinner because it wasn't as high of a priority to you in that moment to have the takeaway. So that's a clear example of your values and your goal system and how important they are and what is important to you. Now, maybe somebody else is I don't know, maybe you are celebrating. I'm just going to use Erin, for example. I hope you guys don't mind, because I know a few weeks ago you had a meal out with your family for a birthday and you went for an Indian. So rather, if you had restricted yourself and taking some Tupperware or just sat there and had nothing, you would have probably craved it more and felt a little bit embarrassed, felt a little bit disappointed that you'd missed out, felt a little bit, sad as well. And maybe you would have taken away some from the family, from the social event. So in that moment, the values of spending time with your family and actually being present, actually enjoying the moment, trumps the discipline. And we were still able to fit it within the macros. We were still able to do it strategically. But does that make sense, guys, as to how important your values and your goals are for each individual? That it is never a one size fits all. So Hannah just said the takeaway was for ease, and you went with a homemade spag bowl instead, right? And that's amazing because you have to do what suits you, your goals, your values, and deciding, what is most important to me. Might be a different situation if you are absolutely starving, you've not eaten, you've not planned any food, had no food in the house, and it was 9 p.m., Hannah, and the only option was to get takeaway. That's a very, very different situation. But being able to take control of our decisions, and as I always say, take ownership of your decisions is the best thing that you can do for taking accountability, taking ownership, having empowerment. So building that empowerment for yourself, building your self-esteem and building your confidence. Now, the next question you can ask yourself is, does this nourish or punish my body? Again, back to the frickin' brownie example that I mentioned from the Easter markets. Had I just had that brownie, that would have punished my body, because that would not have been fair to my body to go, 5 hours without eating and then just eating a brownie. Because my my blood sugar levels would be through the roof and be a little bit shaky because I hadn't had anything substantial. I would then feel very, very hungry, maybe even try and restrict. I personally wouldn't, but just for an example here, maybe you would try and restrict after the brownie and then end up punishing your body as a result. So I knew that I had to have a proper meal to nourish my body and not punish it. And then the final question is, have I eaten recently? Checking in with the hunger, making sure that you've had a substantial meal with protein, with carbs, with fiber, so fruit and veggies in it recently. And if you haven't, then have that before you honor your cravings, okay? So hopefully this has been helpful so far in terms of improving your relationship with food. Do we have any questions, guys? Do you have anything that you want to understand about you personally? Any, for example, things that you personally struggle with that you want to cover? Any case studies? Do you want to talk about a certain situation? Feel free to drop it in the chat and then we can unmute and talk about it. This was a big information overload, so if you need to come back to it, that's okay. I'll send out a summary after this to what we spoke about. What do you think about drinking water when you're hungry? Okay, so for me, I think, again, very person dependent. I know that whenever I feel hungry, I'm usually thirsty. And I can always tell for me personally because I'm very in tune with my body at this point. What I would say is go through the questions. So when did I last eat? If it was like an hour ago, you're probably not going to be hungry quite yet. So maybe it's the case you're thirsty right now, or you're bored, or you're trying to avoid a feeling such as anxiety. And so maybe it's a good idea to take yourself out of the situation, go for a little bit of a walk, listen to the music. That can be helpful. If it is genuine hunger, eat a meal. If it is like no, actually, like I've not eaten in a while, I'm pretty damn hungry, then eat. There's never any harm in drinking and then asking yourself again, if you're not too sure, is this thirst or is this hunger? Have a good 500 milliliters, a glass of water or so, and then check back in. If you're still feeling quite hungry, then it is obviously hunger. If you're feeling a lot better, then maybe you were just dehydrated. I think generally, if we can try and stay hydrated anyway, and we can try and drink, 3 liters of water a day, you're always going to be in a better position from a hunger management standpoint, and just general health. But do the hunger questions, do the 10-minute check when you last ate, check when you last had protein, have I drunk enough water today, am I fatigued, like what is going on here, and really explore those questions before we go to eat. But hopefully that's answered your question. Does anybody else have anything they want to know? Maybe you've got a personal experience. And remember that everything that we speak about in here stays in here. So if it's personal, remember it's completely fine to ask. You are very welcome, though. Okay, I'm going to give it another minute just in case we have any questions, but hopefully this has been helpful for you guys. If you do have any specific questions, again, you can drop it in the Evolve Academy question box, or if you are a one-to-one client, you can message us on WhatsApp, or ask in Annie's weekly clinic, which is tomorrow. So she goes through any questions in there. But yeah, if we have no other questions, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your evening, whatever you're up to. And I will catch you guys soon. Okay, I'm going to stay on for another minute just in case we do have questions, but I will catch you guys soon. Love to you all and have a lovely evening.